Well, hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome to my review of Expeditions, a MudRunner game. Okay, so look, let's open with the standard question, is this worth your time, is it worth your money? Well, I mean, it's difficult to answer. I'll just give you, like 100-foot view, is it worth your time? Yes, but you gotta understand this is sort of a niche game within another niche. SnowRunner is its predecessor that sort of laid the groundwork and is much more mainstream accessible than this game is going to be. However, even then, that's still fairly niche, fairly hardcore, and this is kind of a derivative of that. So is it worth your time? It's going to very much depend on a lot of things there. Is it worth your money? Well, yes, absolutely. For those not across it, the way I review, I have one objective standard, which is where I ask a game for every $5 that it asks me, Australian, that it give me an hour of good gameplay loop. So this game's going for 65 Australian, which is 13 hours. I've clocked that much and I feel like I've barely scratched the surface. As far as content, regions, expeditions, which are kind of the bread and butter of these games, yeah, I think I've done what? There's 2 big regions with 37 each and I've done 5 in each of them, not to mention all the side quests and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, we're barely scratching the surface. Hundreds of hours here. Which, again, if you're familiar with SnowRunner, this is no big surprise. There's so much content in there as well. Truck store is really thin, kind of intentionally so from what I gather, given the way that this game is. There's no like big rig road trucks. In fact, there's no roads in this game. So if you're expecting it to hold a candle to SnowRunner, its predecessor, no, I think you're going to be found wanting. There's a handful of trucks. When I managed to disable all the bullshit DLC pay-to-win trucks, because they put them in this as well, they did it with SnowRunner, so I managed to disable them. There was 5 of those that I started with, and I started with 3 normal trucks, and honestly, I haven't bought a new one yet. There are a couple unlocked in the store from the beginning, and a couple more that will be unlocked as you travel along, but this game is much more intimate in its nature. Again, I'm getting ahead of myself, we'll backtrack in a minute, but when you compare it to SnowRunner, that's much larger scale. This is much more, dare I say, more indie in a way. So you're not going to need a lot of trucks. These trucks are more like RPG characters in a Baldur's Gate party than having a billion different trucks, one for each job to carry this type of thing to there, right? So a much more different, smaller, intimate approach to how vehicles are managed. I'm not trying to carry water for it. Some people are just going to go, nah, doesn't have as much trucks as SnowRunner gets stuffed. Okay, but I think you're missing the point and what they're trying to do here. Imaginary person that I'm arguing with. So yeah, it's worth your time and it's worth your money, and this is all a bit conditional depending on appeal, because it is definitely not mainstream appeal. So on that, much like SnowRunner, it's a very hardcore vehicle management sim type game. Your cars have all-wheel drive toggles. They have a weird gearbox where it sits in automatic, but you can force it into low gears because these are trucks. It's a traction-based thing. It's not like it's going to have a 24 gearbox that you see in big trucks and that sort of stuff. But as far as like a video gamification of it, it makes sense. But it's a bit weird at first, right? That the normal driving is just auto, but you have a few select forced gears. So you can lock out your diff if you push it into low gear. You can put it into all-wheel drive. All these things, probably if you're casual as anything, you don't know what any of this stuff means. But essentially, these are means to gain more power, throughput, traction, that sort of stuff. And in this game, it is at the cost of fuel. Fuel, in a way, is like your HP bar, weirdly enough. They've also introduced a new mechanic in this game where you can deflate the air levels in your tire and reinflate. It's just a flick thing with 3 different levels. And again, that helps add to potential traction when trying to climb things like rocks, because this game is way more focused in verticality when compared to SnowRunner. I'm trying not to compare it too much because I still want to explain it to someone that's new to this, but the comparisons are going to be there, and that's what there is a rabid community that's going to want to know, is it as good as SnowRunner? Is it better? And look, it's different. If you're looking for more SnowRunner, that's not what this is. If you're looking for something different and kind of experimental that does work for what it is within the SnowRunner framework, then that's what this is. So yeah, look, so you have this very sort of high granular way of running your vehicle. You can upgrade a lot of it. There's like equipment, even in the scout cars, there's equipment seats that there's equipment slots that you can put it in, but like with larger trucks, you can put trays on and you can put things in that. And all of this will affect their weight ratio. Often you have to carry around quest items. In this setting, you're kind of doing like geological surveys, scanning the water beds. It's all sort of geological sciences. A lot of it is just kind of throwaway, whatever. But it is kind of interesting how varied it is, and they all have these little mini games that aren't super brain power. They're kind of like Among Us sort of stuff. Scan this, photograph that. But it keeps you engaged. It closes out the loop, because at the end of the day, the real loop is driving around to these locations, delivering the goods, doing whatever, but it's the journey, not the destination, in the most literal of senses. When you go into these regions, that's different from SnowRunner again. Again, for comparison's sake, SnowRunner, you have garages, you deploy out of them, you pick your vehicle, off you go. You can redeploy your vehicle freely. Can't redeploy cargo. In a way, the main currency of SnowRunner is cargo itself. Very different here. You don't haul cargo. There aren't really roads. There are some bridges that you can construct, but it's very limited. I've probably built 2 or 3. There's a couple of avalanches. So there is that mission type that you see as kind of front and center in SnowRunner, but it's like 1% here. This is much more about just do the busy work mission, tick the box while you're out in the expedition. But yeah, to be clear, it's more like deploying from Tarkov inventory in a way. You go from your main menu, you set up an expedition where you slot X vehicles. You've got 4 slots, so I bring all 3 of mine, and you in turn equip consumables into them. So I've used the analogy, and I'll use it again, like it's kind of like, party creation and RPG stuff. Think Baldur's Gate and that. Like, it's obviously not that granular, but it's the closest comparison you're going to get. You're building a party of cars with consumables, and it all really works. But again, this might not be what people that are fans, let's say, are necessarily looking for. You have to have an open mind. This is a great game doing what it does, but you have to come at it from the right angle. Anyway, so you pick out your 4 vehicles, up to 4. You equip them with consumables. The most common and useful ones are like the screw jack, which is an ability that you can use. It's very expensive and very rare, and it's almost like a Phoenix Down from a JRPG. Now I'm slipping into that, where you can upright your truck if it's rolled. In this, if your truck rolls, the engine turns off, it can't be restarted. You're kind of up shit creek. The only way out of it is to either like cancel the expedition whole cloth, or bring another vehicle to try and dig yourself out of the situation, and inevitably get that vehicle stuck as well. But this is the flavor of MudRunner games. So you'll buy like a screw jack. You'll buy these placeable anchor points, which is new, which is interesting, because one of the biomes is desert and the other one's forest. I've spent most of my time in the desert one. There's nothing wrong with the forest one. I'm just enjoying the change of scenery. But usually you can anchor the winch on your truck to trees to get you out of trouble and swamps and that sort of stuff in the mainline games. Not so much here, because there's not really a lot of trees out in these desert mesas. So you place down these anchor points. There'll be a limited amount, and you have to buy all of this for your expedition. And then, obviously upgrade your trucks, and they come with a lot of utility slots. You can upgrade extra storage to give them more fuel, more spare parts. You can repair yourself on the run, and you can swap your emergency fuel over to refuel as well. So there's a big focus on keeping your vehicle in play in the field and being like self-sufficient. On top of this, you can bring specialists, geologists, all this sort of stuff, and you have to pay a premium up front to bring them into your run, but they give you really big bonuses. A lot of them have different flavors of, you can spot certain things through your binoculars. You don't really have Assassin's Creed lookout points in this like you do in SnowRunner. Instead, you have like a drone that you can fly up, but the binoculars are just as easy, where you swivel around and you just sort of scan the skyline, kind of like Far Cry, funnily enough. But yeah, if you want to tag certain things, you need certain experts. A good example would be like the drone has a range of 80 meters, but if you bring the drone specialist lady, she'll add 200 meters to that. So these are significant augments, and you can take 3 specialists. So yeah, you build out your expedition, you pick the mission, you take any specific mission items, and in you go, off you go, sunk cost. It can be quite expensive, and that's kind of what the game holds over your head. Not maliciously, but you can see the prickles to try and keep you on track and keep you honest. You can't redeploy your vehicles for free. You might actually get one free redeploy at the beginning of an expedition. But beyond that, you have to pay a nominal cost. And even for the scout vehicle, it's like $1,000 a pop. It's not cheap. The larger trucks, it's like $5,000. Again, SnowRunner, usually it's free. So it's very, very different flavor. So if you're sensing a theme, that is, you equip your truck with all the best upgrades, you give it spare supplies, that sort of thing. You buy the consumables to get yourself out of trouble. You do everything you can not to roll, not to bog, not to break, not to get stuck, and keep your truck in play. So your truck is very much the main character, whereas like a SnowRunner, it's kind of the cargo that you're carrying, and your trucks just happen to be tools. It might seem like a small thing to labor on about, but it makes a huge difference. To the point where I've become very, very attached to my trucks, especially my little Scout. I've painted it and upgraded it, and I've really, really gotten into a rhythm. But yeah, so there you go. Off onto your expedition, cruise around, tick the boxes, get it done, cash it out, unlock more, rinse and repeat. Funnily enough, a lot of the free roam is not unlocked in the beginning, and a lot of the adjoining regions, you have to mission into them to then unlock outposts to then deploy from them. So there is a very long thread of extra gameplay, and there's probably a lot of stuff that I haven't even encountered yet, but the content is there. It's just less focused on, you know, how many trucks you have in the garage, and more about sort of engaging with these environs. I've really enjoyed it. But like, if we're being really honest, it was a bathtub curve. Like, I was really down on it in the beginning, I guess because I wasn't engaging it on its terms. And I'm kind of glad I came around. Like, you could meme and call it like a Death Stranding-like game, and you know, there's probably some truth there. I mean, sans insane auteur story, but as far as like trying to navigate the terrain and get over it and that sort of stuff, and that being the loop and the real focus, the journey, always the journey. I guess what I'm saying is you just got to turn the right screws in your head to be able to play this. I wasn't able to do that in the beginning, but it finally clicked. And my hope is that it clicks for other people. Anyway, I think it's a great game. I'm probably going to chip away at it over time. There is definitely something to it. Anyway, team, I might just leave it there for the time being, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.